Market to Market is everywhere you are. Subscribe to Market on YouTube, find us on the PBS video app to stream on demand, and add our 3 podcasts on your favorite podcasting app.
Hey everybody, I'm Paul Yeager, and this is the MTOM Show podcast, a production of Market to Market and Iowa PBS. Glad to have you here, and why am I holding a picture? Well, we're going to be talking about land diversity and water and the beautiful state of Oregon today. This is a picture of Iowa. That's also a picture from the Corn Belt behind us, but we are going to be talking with Denver Pugh from Oregon, and he is going to be telling us about life down on the ryegrass farm and what's going on in much of the country right now. Drought, dry conditions, ever expanding dry conditions. We know what it does to corn and soybeans, but what's it do to grass? What's it do to his area of the Willamette Valley on the western side of Oregon, which is different than the eastern side? And we'll get into that discussion. We'll talk about the several generations of his farm and how some things may have to change as they move forward. And we do get into a little bit of the policy discussion about what may need to change when it comes to water. That wasn't exactly where we were intending to go, just kind of talk about the current situation, but we know that this issue of water is not going away, and it's one that John Torpy talked about a couple of episodes ago on the MTOM on a show he's working on, and it will continue to be on the TV show, so keep it tuned here. We'll talk about the weather, the dryland farm that he has there, and then a panacea where there is little humidity. Sounds so wonderful, as my clothes don't stick to me anymore if I just say no humidity. My thanks to everyone who makes this possible, and if you have any feedback for me, hit me up, paul.yeager, that's Y-E-A-G-E-R, at iowapbs.org, or you can email the show market at iowapbs.org. Now let's go with Denver Pugh out of Shed, Oregon, for this conversation and this installment of the MTOM Show podcast. I get accused of talking a little too much about sports, but I just have to ask this about Oregon and Oregon State. Is it truly a civil war? I mean, the two towns are ridiculously close to each other. Do they really not like each other?
Used to be that way. So when I grew up, it was that way. And so I'm of that generation where, I don't like Eugene. If you were associated with U of O at all, you're no friend of mine. It seems like that, what's the word? I don't want to call it a religion, but it seems like your allegiance is kind of bled out. You know, it's not near like it used to be. And so, it's a little bit heartbreaking, because it was always a really neat rival. There's, like I said, in my generation is probably about the last of it that feel that way. Most of the younger generation, my daughter, who's pretty young, is only in the second grade. She talks about, I'm trying to pass this down to her, and she's talks about, well, so-and-so in my class is a duck. And not, because Oregon State's the Beavers and Oregon's the Ducks. And she talks about, so-and-so's a duck. And so is, this person's a duck. And I have to actually watch what I say and say, well, you can be friends too. You don't have to.
Well, in Iowa, at least, there's these license plate covers that say a state divided. And it'll, Cyclones and Hawkeyes, or depending, that's however the plate is. And I know it's the same way. I don't know if you can still speak kindly about each other in Alabama. If you say you're, Auburn and Roll Tide, you can't say them both. So did you go to Oregon State then?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I went to Oregon State. I'm actually 4th generation Oregon State graduate. My great-grandfather went there when it was, if I remember my terminology, it was, I think it was the Oregon College of Science. I said, you have to do the research on that. I can't remember what the progression of it, but it went from the Oregon College of Science, I think it was, to, it wasn't even Oregon State University then, to my grandfather, excuse me. When he went through, it was Oregon University. It's something else. I should know this. But then when my dad and I went through, that's when it converted to Oregon State University. So yes, so I'm, yeah, bleed orange and black. Oregon State University. I graduated in '97 with just a general agriculture degree. I started off like most college students do. I was always knew I wanted to do something agricultural. So I started off with ag business management and kind of went there for about a year in that, going down that road till I just got a little bit more than what I would really thought I'd need. And then I jumped ship to crop and soil science. And I was doing studies there until finally it was like, all right, it got to be more plant breeding. And I'm like, well, I'm not a plant breeder. I don't want to be a geneticist. And so what can I do with my knowledge so far? Is there a degree I can come up with? And lo and behold, they have general agriculture. So I was able to combine all my previous studies and finally graduate. So
okay, there's two ways to interpret what you said, Denver. It's either you didn't do well in all the classes and you just came up with what would work, or you had an incredible interest and were really good at all these things and you couldn't pick just one. A
yes.
or B? Yes, got it. All right. So when you went into school, mid-90s, you and I about the same age. We grew up. Farming wasn't always the thing that was, when we were at that formative age, that necessarily was going to be a great thing. There wasn't. I know the West is different than maybe the Midwest. We're going through the farm crisis when I'm of age to understand about this is what I want to do. Why is it that you wanted to continue a legacy and be the next generation on the farm?
For me, it started at a very young age. And I specifically actually remember this. I remember in kindergarten, we were sitting around a circle and you're asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And back then I used to have fun baking pies with my mom. I always said I was going to be a baker. And that lasted through first grade, because I remember doing the same thing. But when I hit second grade, that's when I started being able to ride around in farm equipment and actually steer the farm equipment. And I thought, whoa, this is neat. And so my whole attitude switched clear back in second grade, saying this is what I want to do. And I did. Learned how to drive at an early age, was driving tractor, out in the fields by age 10, and I thought that was fun until I got to middle school, and then realized that, I can't just get off. This is actually a job. They expected me to have me in this seat to get this job done. But I was okay with it. I still looked around, thought, how many other kids in my class can do this? They would pay me some money. So I always had more money to spend at the end of summer than most of my friends. So it started off as fun. Then as I got older, realized that, no, I can make a career out of this. And saw where our farm was at. And when I graduated college, I had some ideas about how we could increase the size of the farm. We were predominantly strictly grass seed back in those days. And we did a little bit of rotation fields, crops such as soft white wheat. And we did a crop called meadow foam, which meadow foam is a flowering crop, oilseed crop, low growing white flowered crop, wherever that the seeds are crushed for oils, mainly being used for cosmetics. And it was a native plant species to Northern California, Southern Oregon. They brought it up to the mid part of the valley where I'm at and propagated it. Oregon State University actually propagated it, and it put out some varieties that actually produced a yield. And we started growing it back in the mid 80s, about 85, and been growing it ever since. And so there was still a little bit of diversity there. Well, but not much. After I graduated, though, it was about 10 years after I graduated. That's when the first big recession of my generation hit, back 07 through 09. And that's when we were really struggling, trying to find something else to produce besides grass seed. And that's when we started looking at other crops. All right, well, Can we grow turnips for seed? Can we grow radish for seed? Can we grow, clover? Clover. California used to do most of the clovers, and they were getting out of the clovers. And Oregon said, "Well, we can produce clovers." And so all that, the red clover and the white clover production, basically moved north to my areas. And so, and we took advantage of that. And because of all that, and the nutrition of just the size of family farms, you mentioned I was sixth generation farmer, which is correct. We started back in 1940. My grandfather and his father, so my grandfather and great grandfather, started a seed cleaning facility, because my grandfather saw back then that this grassy thing has major potential, but we don't have any processing places. So he formed a corporation with his father and started building up a seed cleaning facility. And so in 1940, we started cleaning seed for all the neighboring farms. Well, back then we cleaned for 27 different farms. And I don't know what the acreage count was, but it wasn't near as much as we are now. Now we're still custom cleaning, but we're cleaning only for 4 to 5 farmers. But we're cleaning, I think, probably at least 10 times the amount of acres, and that's the way things have gone. The small farmer is not there anymore. It's got swallowed up by bigger farms. And we took advantage of that as well. Since I graduated college, nearly 24 years now, we've tripled their farm in size. So that's kind of, I know it's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but that's how my passion started clear back in second grade, and just kind of keeps going from there.
In the western part of Oregon is different than the eastern part. You have a climate issue that I don't know if many understand. I'm in an area where humidity, we wear it like cologne for many months a year. Humidity doesn't really impact you as much. Is that accurate?
That is very accurate. And it's because of the low humidity is why we can successfully do what we do and get the qualities we get. So for basically the state's basically split in 2 halves, and split by the Cascade Mountain Range. So everything on the east side is dry and arid. Everything on the west side typically has higher rainfalls, still dry, to not near as dry, but I mean, our average rainfall's a bit better. It used to be right around that 42 inches in the valley, which is the western side of the state. It's been a little bit less recent years, but you only need about 20, I think the number is around 26 or 27 inches to get a viable grass seed crop. And so, but I guess what we're getting at with the humidity is we have less disease because our humidity is low. So we don't have to do as many fungicide applications. We do have to do them, but not as many on our grass seed crops. And then when we harvest it, we can actually put it in windrows and let it dry naturally. We don't have to worry about it sitting out and the seed spoiling, it molding or the germination being cooked out of the seed due to the humidity. We can just let it dry naturally, and that's a huge cost savings, because I know elsewhere they have to go from swathing it to combining straight to a dryer to dry it to get it to where you can actually store it. And we don't have those issues typically here.
Are there other areas in the country that are like you climate-wise and can grow what you grow? Like, do you have competition regions?
Yes. Yeah, we do. Australia, parts of New Zealand are our main competitors. But then even within the states, there's some microclimates. Minnesota, Missouri, Idaho now is growing some grass seed, and so is Washington State, the eastern part of Washington States. But a lot of these other areas either rely on irrigation, because that's the other thing we have, the timely rains. So you mentioned humidity. It also has to do with the time of the rainfalls too. Our summers are typically dry. About, starting in June, we usually shut off and get sometimes 0% rain all the way through month of September. So with, no rain and then below 40% humidity, we're like I said, it makes it very feasible for us to do what we do, because we don't have to worry about dryers or anything like that. We can actually store the seed outside while we're waiting to get it through the cleaners. But those other parts of the world and the country that I talked about are kind of our main competitions. There's a little bit of microclimate in parts of Canada too that do it, but once again, why Oregon's kind of the premier, because we are still the leading producers of grass seed in the world. A lot of it has to do with logistics too. Our system's set up to where the quality, we can produce the best quality. Our infrastructure for processing the seed, the seed testing labs to be able to test the seed and get make sure that the purity that gets put in the bags is of quality that people can't, that people desire. So it's the quality, because of our climate, it really plays the fact on the quality of seed that we can produce.
And what's behind you in your picture?
These are last year's photo of our combining crew. So,
and that's grass seed?
Yep, that's grass seed behind you. The straw that you see, it's most of what that combine sitting on is already harvested. But so the straw is from a annual ryegrass field though. So
and where's that ryegrass going to go? Am I getting that in my bag here at Home Depot, or let me name another company?
Probably not. Yeah, no. Probably not that particular variety. That is our species, I should say. That is a tetraploid species, which is predominantly a forage.
Okay.
And so unless you have cattle that you're overseeding a pasture with, you probably won't see that. Because it's one thing, we are split up between forages and turfs. Turfs are predominantly what you're going to see at the Home Depots. Mm-hmm. We do raise a little bit of turf grass seeds on my farm, but predominantly we are forage. I'm a forage operation. So.
All right. So the other thing you said from the last, I wanted to clean up what you got behind you. It's a beautiful picture, by the way. But you mentioned the weather. You go months with between rains, but right now you're in a time, as we sit here in early May having this conversation, it's a little drier than it probably should be, and a little too early to be this dry. How's the weather for you right now?
Right now, you're very correct. It's just too dry. We went through a fairly wet. It wasn't wetter than our annual rainfall. Yes, we're behind. I should have looked this up, but I don't have the number on top of my head. But we are behind on average rainfall. It came in early last fall, which was always nice, but then went away about late winter, which usually we get a 2-week window break in February, and that's right about the timing for us to put on our first application of fertilizer. But then it rains again, washes in. Then we usually get a little bit of a dry spell in April, but then we always hope we get the rains coming back in May to help finish the crop off. And it's been relatively dry since about the second week of March. So we're definitely looking in our drought situation right now. We did have a little bit of a shower come through over the weekend. It's Tuesday now, so it was Saturday, Friday night, and Saturday night we had a little bit of shower. We had about 3/4 of an inch, which is nice for the spring planted crops, but it's not near what we need to carry things through our summer. I'm really hoping through the month of May into about the second week of June, hopefully we can get at least another 2 inches of rainfall. If we can't get it in that time frame, our yields are definitely going to suffer. So, but right now I'm looking at partly blue skies. And a nice light little breeze. So,
well, the Drought Monitor says, in the way I look at the map, you're in the D1 category to them. It says some fields are left fallow, water levels begin to decline, recreation and other uses impacted. Now, soon, if you get into D2, which you're kind of on that area, pastures are brown, hay yields are down, prices are up, producers are selling cattle. Again, accurate?
Yes. No, I'll agree with all of that. So It's funny is I'm in a predominantly dry land area. Not many of us have irrigation, but over the last 10, 15 years, you're starting to see more and more wells being put in. Pivots going up. There's in my area, which is used to be kind of unheard of. And maybe one day I'll jump on board, but right now I'm still praying for my rain.
Well, you're a dry land producer, so no irrigation, no pivots, like you said. You don't get to sixth generation if that's not been a successful plan. I mean, obviously the rain has fallen from the sky over time to keep your family operational.
Exactly. And really another thing that helps is my diversification. I'm not growing just one species of grass seed. I've got 4 different species of grass seed we're producing, plus the other 4 rotational crops, and all of them depend upon rainfall, but all of them have a certain requirement, a different requirement for rainfall, and then the pricing structure is different on each one of those. So basically, yeah, if we have a drought year and yields suffer, well, usually price can correct for to make me back in line financially what I need to be to survive. So usually, unless we have multi-year droughts, I usually feel fairly comfortable. So I mean, the irrigation thing would be nice. I'm not going to lie. It has thought crossed my mind about, all right, do I need to be following suit, putting in punching in wells or trying to find water rights to be able to do it. It's getting harder to do it. And one thought was, maybe I better jump on board now before I can't do it anymore. But like you noted, 6th generation of doing this without irrigation. Yeah. I guess that's not forefront on my mind. It is in the back of my mind for sure, but it's not something I'm going to run out there and go do. So.
Well, there's only so many straws that can go into the glass and keep pulling water out. So you say punch holes, so it's in the ground where you're getting the water from, or is there the neighbors? I'm not you, but I mean, where are they getting the water from, and where would you, if you had to, get it from?
Mostly where I'm at. I'm far enough from any major water stream that I would have to put in a well. Neighbors around me, there's a couple of rivers near me. The biggest one being the Willamette River, actually runs. It's about 4 miles due west of me, but we don't have irrigation district in my area to be able to get the water to. I actually was part of a group about 10 years ago. We were going to try to set up some sort of, a whole irrigation ditch system and to be able to pump out of back then. But to be perfectly honest, we couldn't get the neighbors that actually had the land next to the river to go along with the district we were trying to start to form. So the slide kind of got abandoned. We do border another, technically it's a creek, but it was started as an irrigation creek probably back in the 50s, I think it was. And so I probably could get water rights off of that if I wanted to, but once again, I can only cover just certain fields. I wouldn't be able to cover the bigger part of my farm, which is more out in the flatter parts of the valley, out in the open, where there is no irrigation channels other than putting in a well.
How would you rate the needs of an Oregon producer versus other states' needs for water, and how ramped up has it become in the last 10 to 15 years?
Boy, how do you answer that without sounding arrogant? Because, yeah, I want to say that we are very important. We need our water, and we do, but do livestock producers, that rely on water to water their pastures so they have food for their cattle, do they need it more? Probably so. I'm not going to deny that. So there are other areas of states that definitely need more water usage than what I need here. But at the same time, we all kind of rely on each other. If they can't produce cattle or have a marketable product, or get their product to market, well, they're not going to buy my product to help feed their next generation. So we definitely rely on each other. So it's almost that, all right, what came first, chicken or the egg? Who gets it? Who deserves it better? That's a tough question. But what I do know is this is a little I don't know. I say this, you say you don't edit, but you can edit this out.
Well, now I can't. You've said that. We have to leave that in. So,
well, water, as you know, is very political, and especially where I'm at in Oregon, it seems like where the political powers don't necessarily lean towards agricultural friendly. They would rather save fish than farmers, and that's the part that's really sad. It's like, all right, can't there be enough water for both? Or can't you realize that human livelihood maybe better trump some fish's livelihood? I don't want to see any fish or animal go extinct, but at the same time, I don't want to see our farmers go extinct either. I think they need to watch out for that. And that's the political part of water that's very frustrating.
Well, and you're not the only state to have it. I mean, that debate to the north of you in Washington, to the debate in Idaho, especially south of you in California. I mean, the fish versus food or wildlife, that is a major thing that I just I don't know if the rest of the country, let alone your own state, gets that debate, and it doesn't seem to be going away. So policy is only one thing, and government is only one thing. Some people want government out of everything, and that's fine. But at some point, you're going to have probably something done, and somebody's going to have to make some pretty tough decisions. What's the perfect bill right now?
I don't know, honestly.
It's going to take a little bit of sacrifice from a lot of groups, right?
It definitely will. It's got to be a two-way street. There's got to be give and take from both sides. And honestly, I do think a lot of the farmers and ranchers that depend upon the water source, I think they actually get it. I think they realize that but they also know how much water they need. More so than the politicians in Salem know how much water they think they need. So why don't you actually take the science, take the people who are actually putting it to use, and listen to them and let them help you decide, all right, well, this is how much we need, because how much does the other sectors need? How much do people need? How much do the wildlife need? And then can't we all somehow symbiotically, make this work? Instead of, it just doesn't seem like they want to listen to the professionals, the people that actually have the experience on what it takes to grow that crop or produce that livestock.
Go ahead, finish up. Sorry.
Oh no, that's the big struggle is why can't we? Because I do think we realize that there needs to be give and take, and it just doesn't seem like we're getting that on the other side.
In the corn and soybean world, there's genetics underway trying to live off of less water, knowing that maybe there won't be irrigation, maybe there won't be stuff falling from the sky. Is the same type of genetics at work in the ryegrass industry?
Yes. Yeah. No, that's definitely, because I think that's a necessity. I think people are realizing, the seed companies that help produce the seed, help produce the varieties, they've gone to the seed breeder and that is a specific that they're looking for. Hey, because we need to start producing varieties that are more drought tolerant, because not only for the production areas where I'm at, but also for the end user. We need to make sure that, okay, it's deep tap rooted, but also that it can survive off of little water and still produce the forage that it needs to produce, or the seed it needs to produce. So no, that's definitely, we're right. I don't think we're as far ahead, honestly, as the corn and soybean guys. I think they've been working on it a little bit longer than we have. But I do know specific breeders that are breeding more. I don't say drought tolerant, but yeah, basically drought tolerant varieties.
And it's not going to be quick enough research in either of those crops for this year. But we know that this issue hasn't gone away. At least in this area of the world, we think of 2012 as a very dry. But we're at as we reported on Market to Market last week, the Drought Monitor says this is the driest it has been since 2013. So 2013 was coming out of 2012. So I hate to say that we're backing into it, but it's a possibility, and water again is going to be a major issue of our time.
Yes, no, exactly. It's you alluded to the fact that south of me in California, well, northern or southern Oregon, so that'd be southern Oregon in the Klamath Falls Basin, they rely on Klamath Lake for a major water source, and they've been in a D2 drought situation ever since November, that's unheard of, because that's ahead of most of the snowfall that fills the lakes. And so they were already calling for a drought situation then, and talking about battle, they're in a major battle because they were shut off back in January. They were told that you're not going to get any water. So they're struggling really hard down there.
Let's talk about natural beauty before we finish. 3 great natural beauty spots in your state. I always think of the 101 as a pretty drive in Oregon. I know the Cascades have some incredible views. The one behind you ain't too bad. What are a couple of good ones that people ought to know about?
Oh, well, of course, you got Crater Lake, in the southern part of Oregon. That's always a hot spot people need to come see. As mentioned, the Cascades, specifically Mount Bachelor is a gorgeous mountain, because you can also see the other parts of Cascades. Sisters is a beautiful town. 101, it's kind of funny you mentioned that one, up the coastline. If you have the stomach for it, it's a windy, the windless road, but it's gorgeous. Our some people like the big sandy beaches of California or Florida, but Oregon's got them too. But we also have the gorgeous rock cliffs and everything coming off our coastline, where you can actually up Depot Bay up north of Newport, which is a central part of the coastline. It's great for whale watching and storm watching, because watching the storms come in from the west it's something else. And so, but no, that's. And then just north of me, a couple counties north of me, so not even 40 miles north of me, there's wine country. And you talk about, I think our wine country could probably rival California's wine country. It's nice rolling hills, vineyards everywhere. It's absolutely gorgeous. Here, give it another month when when all the grapes and stuff are starting to bloom. It's really pretty drive.
Is that all considered Willamette Valley?
Correct.
Area?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
The Willamette Valley basically starts, basically Portland, right at the border, the Washington border, and it goes south to basically peters out about 14 miles south of Eugene. And so, most people have the valley split up in three sections. Got the South Valley, the Mid Valley, and the North Valley. And my particular location is considered South Valley, but I'm the north part of the South Valley. So
it's a beautiful area. I'm sitting here staring at the map, and I'm like, all of those are great places. Mount Hood, and then you're not that. Mount Rainier is out there, and you can see that thing for all sorts of different directions. You see it in Washington, but. All right, Denver, I better let you get back to work. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you so much.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Dan Pugh. Appreciate all of your time, and good luck the rest of the way here in this growing season. And thank you for making us a part of your day. Glad you have taken us along, whether it's in the tractor, in the car, at your desk. Maybe you're on the treadmill. You're done now. Time to go home. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.